All right, everybody, deep breath. No decisions have been made. Okay, here's Ridgefield. Here we are. All right, I have a lot of data to share with you. Remember, you have access to the slides for people who are tuning in later. Everything's available on our website as part of the board packet. So this is a slide you've seen before. This is just a refresher for you of where we started this year. We started at Union Ridge in September with 683 adorable kinder through fourth graders. At Southridge, we started with 780 adorable kinder through fourth graders. The red dots are current Union Ridge students. The blue dots are current Southridge students. As we've talked about before, the Union Ridge boundary is the most densely populated of our school district boundary. And then I've given you just a fun fact, which is that we are all so grateful to be building a school, because without it, bringing back our fifth graders, if we were to double this year's kinder class, which is an estimate, right, we would have 807 kids at Union and 913 at Southridge, which I'm pretty sure would be a record breaker for them. So we are so excited to be adding a school. As you know, we pushed out a survey around elementary boundaries to try and get a sense from our community about what their priorities were in terms of how we make those decisions. We had almost 650 respondents, as you can see here, 645, pretty equally split. So 267 folks who lived in the Union Ridge boundary, 323 that live in the South Ridge, a few people who I'm going to guess don't have children in school yet, so they weren't sure, and then a small group of folks who are likely staff but do not live within the district. In terms of role, some future elementary parents, so folks who don't have any children in the district, so a big thank you to those 38 folks for taking the survey. We had about 200 Union Ridge parents, 250 Southridge parents, so good representation from our elementary parents, along with a smattering of elementary staff, some other district staff, 53 community members, so there's a lot of interest there, and then a few folks that selected other. If you have elementary age children, what grade level is your youngest child? Nothing super scientific with this, but I wanted to get a sense of how many future kindergartners are out there. So job security, kinder teachers. So we have 134 kids that are coming at some point in the next 5 years. So, but you can kind of see there the makeup of the group. We'll give folks several things to rate the importance. So we started by first just saying, here's 10 things, how important do you think they are? From 1, not important at all, which is the first little bar in the bar charts, to 5, all the way on the right of each little 5-bar chart. So when you take a look at this, the ones that had the most importance, the most people, similar resources, balanced facility use, and early notification were the top 3. Then, because I just want to make sure, I asked it a different way and said, which 3 factors above are most important to you? So now you can only pick 3, and this time you'll see that the top ones again are similar resources and balanced facility use. And just again, to be double, triple sure, I asked again, which factor is most important to you? And again, you're going to see similar resources and balanced facility use. So I think pretty clearly in every way I asked it, people said these are the top 2 things you should consider, a board of directors, as you make decisions about the boundaries. Then asked a question if you are a parent or guardian of a current kinder through fourth, so someone who has a child in one of our elementaries right now, what's your opinion about grandfathering? And we talked just a little bit about this at the last meeting, but always curious to see what people have to say. Super split. This is the most even pie graph I've ever shown you. We had 13.5% that said no grandfathering at all. We had 13.2% that said, I strongly support grandfathering. We had 20% that said, okay, but a limited number. We had almost 20% that said, well, yes, but only for fourth graders. We had 15% that said, sure, but parents have to drive them. And 20% said, I don't care, or I have no opinion, I guess is probably better. So this is going to be a tough one, but as I get into some of the other data, this is a piece as the board I need you to be thinking about, is this idea of grandfathering. By far, the easiest from a systems perspective is no grandfathering. And in terms of being able to staff the schools and have the appropriate number of rooms in usage, the right furniture, the curriculum, the staff in the right place at the right time, the no grandfathering is going to give us the most ability to have forethought and foresight around how many staff we need at each site. So I share that with you from an operational perspective. I also would share with you that we currently have policy and procedure around inter-district transfers. So this is when someone's at one of our elementaries and wants to go to a different, and they live in our school district. We already have a process for that. We fine-tuned it this last fall, where we did it basically on a space available basis, which I would say is probably the closest to this red, the limited number of spots. And we did it based on saying yes to as many as we could without putting a teacher into overload. That was really the metric. And Alma, who is our district registrar, and I would meet basically once a week through the summer to take a look at who's on the list, and then fill as we were able to fill. I would recommend that that's probably a system that would continue to work well and does not end up with teachers on overload at one building and under enrolled students at another building. So there was one open-ended question, only 126 of the 648. So this has been pretty on par. About 25% of our folks will give us kind of I care enough to write some things to you. The themes from that feedback was really just primarily a desire for stability, lots of very kind, pull on your heartstring please about the teachers that they love and the buildings that they love and the PTOs that they love, and just wanting to stay where they are. There was several that were really just practical, like you got to cut down on the traffic at pickup drop off. I don't want my kid on the bus for an hour at a time. Please send people to their closest geographical school. There were a few comments about equity and resources, and called out some particular groups of students to be considered. There was a strong desire to keep neighborhoods together, which we've talked about previously. And then there was a smattering of comments where people felt very strongly, yes, grandfather everyone, or no, don't grandfather anyone, which I think you saw that come out in the other data as well. So as we are working on this proposal around new elementary boundaries, I'm just giving you, again, a recap from the top principals in the community survey. Equitable resources at all three campuses. That means we're not going to have art at one campus and not have art at the other. Balanced facility use. That's not the same as balanced enrollment. Balanced enrollment would mean the same number of kids at every campus. Balanced facility use means we're using the same percentage of each campus. So we're leaving some growth potential at all three sites. And then from that first question, early notification to families and staff. So how do we go about this business of projecting enrollment growth? This is recommendation around how do you do a student generation rate based on single family residence, so houses versus like apartments or townhomes. You find with single family residents more elementary students than in like apartments or townhomes. So you can see the rate there is different, and there's just some information about that. This is the elementary rate. There are different rates you use for middle school, for high school, et cetera. And being the conservative when it comes to these things that I am, I went with 0.3 and 0.15 because, again, just like we talked about before, we don't want to overestimate on kids because it creates financial havoc for the district. So some places we can go for information. City of Ridgefield, as you know, has this business of development and building down to a science. So you can get on their website. You can take a look at annual building permits. They have a monthly report on development that you can access on their website as well. This shows you over the last 4 years the summary of permits by type and by year, we are looking at that 1, 2, 3rd row down where it says new home permits. So you can see in 2021, 648 new home permits, which then dropped to 361, which dropped to 243, which dropped to 226, which is where we are this year, which means 25 is going to be an uptick from 24 because we still have another month to go. So that's a place we can look to kind of see like, okay, we're still growing, but we are not growing at the rate that we were. This is the City of Ridgefield Homeowners Association, or HOA map. This is also available on the city's website. And if you are checking out this presentation later, you can go click on the title and it will take you right to that page. And you can go play with this and make it bigger and smaller and find out all kinds of information about all of these housing developments that exist in our town. This is why when my husband said, I don't want to buy a house in an HOA, I said, ha ha ha, good luck. Now Tony is the president of our HOA, so there you go. That's what happens when your wife is the superintendent. So you also can look at the city development report, and this also is, I think, linked in here for you. So this is the most recent. This is the October reports, but you can look in here at existing subdivisions, how many permits have already been issued, how many lots were actually approved for that subdivision, and then I just did the basic math, because guess what, kids, you do use math in real life, so I just like to keep pointing that out. So you can see there's lots of potential houses in these developments because there's still lots there. Then we take a look at their development map. And across the bottom, you can see employment, mixed use, public facility. I clicked residential. There's actually a whole bunch more color and things on this map if you click all the boxes, but I just wanted to look at residential, right? Because we're looking for where are there going to be additional kids. You can, again, click into these different developments and get additional information about where they are in the process of development. So again, this one is linked. So from that information, then I'm able to click into each of those and find out where are they at in the development process. So pre-application means we have not started. That means those are all definitely new to come residential lots and homes of some sort. Charlotte's Cottages is, I know Charlotte's really excited. She's going to go buy a cottage in Charlotte's Cottages. Is multifamily dwelling, right? So you can see the rate there. I used the 0.15, not the 0.3 generation rate, but we just did the simple math. Is there a 0.9 kindergartner? Nope, there sure isn't. But again, from a conservative standpoint, I did not want to round up on these. So went through all of these to see how much potential estimated student growth would happen within this area. The Northwest Quadrant is the Union Ridge area. So we're looking at, okay, how many additional kids? And you can see for the most part, these are really small numbers. Then we take a look. Paradise Point is a fairly new development. It is absolutely still in construction mode. So that's a huge one that currently is in the Union Ridge boundary. So that's like, okay, do we want to keep it there? Do we want to move it? You can see Greeley Farms is probably the largest development over on the east side. They are for sure going to go to Sunset. I can't envision any scenario where they do not go to the new Sunset Elementary. 494 lots. It's a huge neighborhood over there. And a neighborhood with a lot of young families. So we can anticipate that we're going to see significant growth from Greeley Farms development at Sunset Ridge in terms of enrollment. Urban Downs is over there. Meadowview, which used to be Urban Downs 2, that's over in that area as well. Then if you think about Hillhurst, the southern end of Hillhurst, so this View Ridge Estates is 29 acres in pre-application. We don't even know how many lots they're going to put in there, yet to be determined, right? And then you can see some others. Sanderling Park, the little video's covering it up, but 383 lots, so roughly 125 kids, potentially, okay? Also, you can go to Clark County. development, so you can go to their website as well and get information. A lot less development happening in the county within our boundary as compared to within the city boundary, but these are 3 developments that are slated and listed on there that could potentially lead to some additional kids, not huge numbers. But if I take all 3 of those pages, all 3 slides together, that's 695 projected new students coming to us at some point. Not all next year, but over time. So the next bit of data that we took a look at was the transportation, the numbers by neighborhood. Some of these are ones that we just saw on the development map because they're currently under development or their future development. Some of these are neighborhoods you didn't see there because they're fully developed and done, but they are within our boundary, and we have data on them based on their enrollment and their transportation. If it's in blue and or has 1 asterisk, it's currently a Union Ridge boundary neighborhood. If it's in orange or a 2 asterisk, being for color, you can use 1 or 2. You're welcome. And being ADA compliant. So, and then it's a current South Ridge boundary. So this is, I know, a ton of text. I don't really mean for you to like digest all of this in this moment, but you can see we've grouped neighborhoods kind of by geographic location, and then I've listed for you the number of students that we know that are at our elementary right now, kinder through 4th grade, again, because we're keeping 5th grade there. Those kids will all stay in the elementary system next year. Again, in the little box in the lower right corner, that's where I started this section of the presentation, 683. If we double kinder, 807. If we double at Southridge, 913. Okay. Then because we are going to add kindergarten, I added 20%. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 grades. Divide, right, is 20%, so we add 20%. Okay. Mathematical, maybe not scientific. So this gives us a guesstimate, an estimate guesstimate of where we think we might land. So what I did is I took the total, I added the 20%, that's listed in bold. If it's in the blue, those are the Union Ridge. If it's in the orange, those are the South Ridge. Again, just trying to figure out how many kids might we have next year. Also important, given that our community was pretty clear about capacity, so not the same enrollment at every school, but the same facility use at every school. So important for us to take a look, Union Ridge, South Ridge, and the new Sunset Ridge. I also put in here the years for you when things were built. I did not know, I learned that the SPED Annex at Union Ridge was built in 1978, the same year that my sister was born. And then you can see portables with bathrooms, portables without bathrooms we typically don't use for student service areas, specialty classrooms. So every building has a music room, choir room, library, gym. We've got commons, we've got lab space, etc. So the original, the addition, that's the B building at Union Ridge and at South Ridge. And when you add it all up, at the end of the day, Union Ridge has 37 brick and mortar classrooms. You're either in building A or B, and 18 portables. South Ridge has 29 brick and mortar and 20 portables, and Sunset Ridge will have 30 brick and mortar. So I paused for a moment because somebody somewhere is going, what, you built the new school smaller than the old school? Yes, we did, because that's what we could afford to do based on what the community was ready to support. So we, as you know, made some adjustments to the design. We did not invest a bunch of money in a brand new design. We took what had been developed and paid for. We reduced non-student spaces as much as we could. So we are doing it as efficiently as possible. And obviously we need the space. So when you take a look at this 55, 49, and 30, if the community is after similar percentage of use, that means there will be more students at Union Ridge, less than that at South Ridge, and Sunset Ridge will be the smallest of the three in terms of enrollment. Okay. Some more details for you on our portables. So portables by year, you can see these are not two, doesn't mean portables, it means 2 classrooms, which is often 1 portable, if that makes sense. They're usually double capacity. These ones at Southridge from 1989, this great Taylor Swift album, and also I think I was in middle school. 91, 92, 2005. I, at some point in the next year, am going to come to you and recommend that we determine that they are surplus and that we demolish them. We are using them to serve kids right now. I don't ever want to serve kids in them again after this year. So the ones with the asterisks are the ones that I will likely recommend that we shutter. The 4 at Southridge really just need to be raised. The 3 at Union Ridge, will do some more inspection and determine, can we continue to use them for storage? Can we use them for some other purpose potentially? But we may also look at removing a couple of those that are basically 20 years old at this point. So when you take out those decommissioned portables, then, and you look at your teaching spaces, then you have 49, 41, and 30 in terms of the percentage of overall total classrooms, which is conveniently 120, so it's lovely for math purposes, but 41% Union Ridge, 34% South Ridge, 25% Sunset Ridge. And so looking at numbers, this is kind of roughly where we wanted to get. 650, 550 to 600, 400 to 450. And we want to have some growth capacity because, as you just saw from all the development slides, there are more kids coming to us over the next few years. So this leaves the most open classrooms at Union Ridge. They're all portables though. It leaves a few portables open at Southridge. It leaves a classroom open at Sunset. I initially had a little plus sign, but I thought that's going to be confusing to people down the road. But what I will tell you is when I say there's 1 classroom open, we can make space for more because your specialist teachers can be put on a cart. Art can be put on a cart and done in the regular classroom. Science can be put on a cart, right? PE is PE, kind of got to use the gym for that. But music, a lot of other things can go onto a cart if necessary, depending on like some of your special education services. There may be some ability to utilize spaces in multiple ways. So you could get more than 1 classroom of additional kids into there, and you're going to need it at Sunset with Greeley Farms development. So going back to this, knowing that that's kind of where we want to land in terms of total students for next year, this is that same list of all the things, and now we have added green. So 1 star, blue, Union Ridge, 2 stars, orange, South Ridge, and if it's green, you still will see a 1 or 2 star because that's what it was before, but now you can see that it would be going to Sunset Ridge, the new school. We are working with that 120% because we got to have capacity for incoming kindergartners. And what you will see in this is that there's not much movement. So this was the other takeaway from the community survey was people really want to stay where they are if they can. The only movement on this is the Acero apartments are currently at Southridge and would be pulled to Union. We currently don't have any multifamily dwelling units at Union Ridge. All of our apartments, townhomes, everything are currently at Southridge. When you're looking at a diversity of population, you want to spread that out. So we would look to pull Acero over to Union. Clover Hill would get pulled into Union because of where it's located and where we would like to put the boundaries. No change to a whole bunch of other Union neighborhoods, no change to Kennedy Farm, Sanderling, they are south and would stay south. All the Clark County, kind of in the southern part, is south and would stay south. So then the bulk of the people who are moving, they're moving to the new school. So this whole region that is north of Pioneer, up until you get to Kemper Loop. So from the east side of Kemper Loop, all the way across the freeway, that all those neighborhoods would go. The east of Royal, west of I-5, those would go. And then obviously the east of I-5 and north of 502 would go, because they're geographically really close to the new school. So you can see kind of where it ends up, but basically 157 kids who currently go to Union would be going to the new school. 209 students who currently go to South would go to the new school, and 74 students who currently are South would actually get pulled into the Union Ridge boundary in order to balance the numbers. Easier way to see it is on this slide right here. But if you are like, but I don't see mine, I really want to know where it's at, you can go back to the other slide. So these are the neighborhoods that basically we're pulling about 10 neighborhoods that are currently Union and going to Sunset. We're pulling about 10 neighborhoods that are South that are going to Sunset. And there are only 4 neighborhoods that are going from South to Union. No one is going from Union to South. So this is, I think, probably about as limited of the movement as we could do and accomplish the enrollment targets that we're looking at. Draft in big letters. So next steps, we're going to take a look at all those numbers by site again, and I will be working with K-World and our team around by grade level, because it has a huge impact on the staffing and what that might look like, to see if it's fairly evenly split. Also working with K-World just on, okay, how does this work for them in terms of transportation logistics? And then the goal is to bring back to you a proposal for adoption at our next board meeting, which is in just 2 weeks. Following board adoption or action, whether then or later, we would get the boundaries communicated out via district website, parent square, family newsletter, staff newsletter, district social media, all the things. We'll have to order new maps and do some of that. But this is, I did this on the computer with my mouse. I'm really impressed, actually, that I could draw these lines. Just like pat myself on the back for that. I tried to use the pen. Tiffany has a pen that she is like so nice, and I was like, I actually can do this better with my mouse. I can't make the pen work. So, but you can see in general, there's probably not exact on here, but really we've maintained, this is the existing, the purple is Union and the yellow is South. So we've maintained the bulk of what is Union Ridge at Union Ridge. This red outline, South, basically just we're kind of chopping off the top part of South and east of the freeway. That little weird piece of Union Ridge that's east of the freeway is right by the new school, so they'd be going there. And then you can see we basically have come down Pioneer in order to take in some of those developments, including Paradise Point, which is going to have a lot of growth, and pulled that over to the new school as well. Tiny little bit there where the South going to Union, so you can see where that piece is. Those 4 kind of fall within that weird little piece right there. So it's utilizing 502 kind of north-south between Sunset and South. It's utilizing the freeway for a portion of the boundary. And then it kind of cuts across all the Hillhurst neighborhoods until you get to Sanderling Park and the one right across the street from Sanderling Park. I can't remember which one. Kennedy Farms. Like everything south of that is at Union, but those 2 stay at South, and they're at South now. There's a couple little neighborhoods behind the high school as you go down Royal. So Royal also is part of this boundary. they're really tiny little neighborhoods right behind the stadium. And so those would get pulled over to Union. And then Pioneer becomes the other. You can kind of see the east-west Pioneer where it cuts across, and that's what pulls the Acero Apartments over to Union, but moves some of those other neighborhoods north of Pioneer over to Sunset. Okay, I'm going to pause for questions, thoughts, feedback around boundaries.
You're looking for a December 9th vote, and this kind of looking at this as kind of a first read in essence?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Clear.
On the map, can you go back one slide? Is the little bump out on the top section, is that the Kemper Loop? And why is that? I don't know where the road goes. I'm just, because I can't really see the bumps that goes.
The little like puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is Kemper Loop right
Okay.
there. Yeah.
And is that the road, the main road right there, is that Royal that's going up? Like, why are we moving Kemper, that little bump out, instead of putting it on the new? And
Because of numbers. And all the other developments in the middle of that, Paradise Point, Cedar Creek, Pioneer Place, there's like development. Kemper Loop is the furthest west. So if you look at this, you can see where the orange kind of towards the top. You can see Paradise Point is a big red rectangle, and then goes straight south of that. That's all of those. Kemper Loop is the orange one, all the way over there to the left. So it's still like Heron, Bellwood. So Reman Road goes up there, and then Kemper Loop. And we looked at, in terms of transportation routing, there's streets from Pioneer up into Kemper. But a lot of these other ones, because we looked at options for, like, do we pull Bella Noche? Do we pull whatever? But thinking through the routing for the drivers, they have to go in at
35th.
Yeah, and so it's in the middle of all of those developments, and so it didn't make sense to split there. But if we don't include that whole big piece, you're not going to have enough at Sunset. And if you add Kemper Loop, you're going to be completely full and overfull to open. And I just really caution us against being completely full at Sunset, or we will be in a position to have to put portables in year 2. And I really don't want to do that.
How long was the survey open? And it's been 4 weeks since we met, and you shared a draft like this. So curious, how long did people have for feedback? And have you received any other passionate outreach from community?
When we talked about it at the last meeting a month ago, it was just like a sample. So
Correct.
this is like all the hard numbers for you today. This isn't the same as what I brought last time, which was just a sample.
Sure.
And the survey was open for a good 2 weeks. We publicized it through all our normal channels. 650 is pretty good turnout for us. I've received not a single email, phone call, registered letter, court summons.
Neither have I, and I was going to ask
Okay.
my colleagues if they have. I've had 3 people in passing curiously ask me, and the neighborhoods topic was the one that I think we're pretty committed to, not splitting up neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just been curiosity, and like can't wait to find out where we land.
On the, I think I know the answer, but if you can help me confirm the boundary, like at the line where it's dividing all 3, there were just a few places where the old boundary went like, maybe like this.
Funky, yeah.
And the new boundary is going like that, kind of just a switch. Is it just that the numbers of actual houses within those footprints are so different that you're not necessary, it's not an even swap? Like if you look at the, not this one, the one that you showed with that you did on your computer.
This one will be easier though for you to look
Okay.
at. So if you look at, I can't see where 205 is on here, but probably it's near the bottom. So you're going up I-5, and then you're basically kind of cutting across where you can see where the green and the Gee Creek, like see where that green line goes across. That's almost about where the boundary would be. Royal, so you see where Clover Hill is on the west and Seven Wells is on the right.
Yeah.
We're using that as the boundary. So Seven Wells is going
To
across the
Sunset.
freeway to Sunset. Clover Hill is going over to Union. These three little tiny, this red, orange, and blue that looks like kind of a right angle. Those three right now are Southridge. But every other, if you look just like you're going up Royal, and then you look to your right, like you're going to go to the high school and this Hawks Landing, all of these are Union Ridge. But these three little neighborhoods, they had to go up and turn left and drive quite a distance to Southridge.
Right.
So the suggestion is we pull those three in with the rest of these, and the boundary going to south is really Kennedy Farms and Sanderling Park,
Yeah.
who already go to Southridge.
And Seven Wells goes to
Sunset.
The new, okay, because
Yeah.
it's north enough.
So
and
the
east,
only
okay.
ones that are not going to the new school that are having to move are those three tiny little neighborhoods. And then right now, I believe Pioneer Canyon is maybe like split. And we're suggesting that we would use like that. We want to keep them together, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not using words so good at this point in the night, but that's where the boundaries, like where the bump outs and things are. It's because of like those three little tiny neighborhoods. It's trying to geographically, as the crow flies, basically take where the three schools are and just go radiate out from that while not breaking up neighborhoods. Yeah.
I think I looked at the wrong one earlier when I was, that map was good. It was the little bump out I was referring to wasn't Kemper Loop. I think it was maybe like from that previous map that you were just on, it looked like maybe it was more that Canterbury Trails area. And I thought we were maybe just gonna use that Royal as a dividing line. That's where I was saying like, what's with the bump out of that little neighborhood? It's not.
Yeah, so we kept going down Pioneer.
It's this.
Further.
Amanda, it's this is the bump out. Kemper Grove, Kemper Loop is the little puzzle piece.
Okay.
Would stay that way, and then these little neighborhoods, purple, blue,
They're all gonna
orange,
go east.
they would go east, and then up above the green, red, and then Paradise Park Point, would go.
And that's part of the rationale is because I think there's so much development happening at Paradise Point, but I think that would be good to pull over. So then north to south, trying to make as straight of a line as we can, kind of north to south. So all those neighborhoods go to the new school up until you hit Pioneer, and then right like Heron Woods, Cedar Ridge, like those are all gonna stay with all the Hillhurst and everything and the downtown at Union.
Okay. I do appreciate all the numbers with the development. That's what I've been dying to see that, like those charts with those numbers. That's where I feel like we really need to put our thoughts into where those new houses are gonna go, because we know that there's so much more room for development, and we know it's coming on the east and south side of the district, so.
Yeah, the other option is to that chunk that's north of Pioneer we could maintain at Union Ridge. It would put Union Ridge starting likely above where they are now, and it would put Sunset Ridge starting below 400. And I think my guidance to you as the board is that that would be less palatable to the community to have that much of an under-enrolled brand-new school, and for one of our existing schools to go up in enrollment, even though we're adding a grade level and it mathematically makes sense. I think we want to get closer to these targets, and so it was trying to figure out what neighborhoods do we group together in order to hit those enrollment targets.
Thank you for breaking it down by classroom. I think that's like a way to look at it that we haven't been talking about a ton. I think it's probably the most important. I think we've been focused on like how many 600-700 students are at this campus versus the next, but breaking it down like what we actually have at Sunset at the new building and putting that in perspective, while it'll equal the playing field, but they should be more in line with the amount of teaching spaces. So I think that's, and leaving space for each makes a ton of sense. And getting rid of archaic portables as well. Eventually.
Yeah.
Can you show the one that has the subtracting out the old portables that we don't want to be putting students in? So what capacity are the schools at with these numbers based on the number of classrooms? I see, okay.
41 out of 49, so there's still more open at Union Ridge.
Okay, there's the classroom. Okay, total
Yeah.
classrooms. Okay, thank you. And we have, so with moving fifth, it's unrealistic to consider not using portables at our schools that currently have them. There is not the space.
We're going to
with
do
fifth.
everything we can to get everybody in a brick and mortar, but it is likely we're still going to be utilizing at least a few
Yeah.
at Union and South, more than likely.
Okay.
And these numbers are, again, based on giving every teacher their own room, every specialist their own room, every resource room, intensive need, like, there are things we do in public education to tighten it up, and we will do that as we need to, because there will be growth. The growth most likely is going to be felt most heavily at Sunset. And I'm often thinking years ahead. So realistically, looking at our projections, so I mentioned the stat from Paula's presentation that we were just shy of 1.5%. So I went back to our enrollment projections that we've looked at previously, and if we did 1.5% for the next 4 to 5 years and 1% after that, we have capacity to get us through half a dozen years at least. And the reality is we're likely to need a 4th elementary school. And yes, I know we're not even done building number 3. But the reality is either we're going to have to use all those portables again and add portables at Sunset, or we're going to need to add a 4th elementary school. We already own the property. We have a design now that we've already paid for. I think there are ways for us to be financially savvy. We are at this point 2 years out from me coming to you again and saying we need to run our next levies, potentially a bond. That's not that long, really. And so really what we're trying to do with this is balance them to the extent that we can, not put portables at our brand new elementary school, and buy ourselves 5 to 6 years, which is enough time to generate revenue to potentially do another elementary school.
Thank you. And thank you for all of the background numbers in this plan.
Yeah, appreciate the slideshow and breaking it down. To me, it really boils down to the numbers, and you draw the lines to fit the numbers, and then later you redraw boundaries if you have to. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, but this makes sense. And having those numbers of school to classroom, and because it's Union Ridge is like, we're still a big school, but they're going to be a big school. They have the most space, so we got to utilize that. And I think, going back to the survey, balance. This is giving balance, whether it seems like it or not.
Yeah, I think this is also, for the 126 that wrote comments in, many of which were like, I don't want to go somewhere else. I love my school.
Change is hard.
Change is hard. And so I think with this proposal, with the exception of those 3 tiny neighborhoods that we pointed out on the map and the Acero apartments, if you're moving, it's to go to the new building. And somebody's got to go. And it's going to be lovely. And we have an amazing administrative team already in place. And so I know that there's lots of feelings, and when the decision's made, people will probably share with you their feelings before and after that decision. And I can say with conviction that we have amazing teachers and amazing administrators and amazing paraeducators and secretaries and everything at all of our elementary schools, at every school. I would be proud to send my own child or my grandchildren to any of our elementary schools and know that they would get a quality education. Okay.